My biofuel project was on ethanol. Ethanol is also known as ethyl alcohol and is a common type of biofuel which is renewable and comes from plant materials. And it is also a common additive in gasoline and is very versatile and is used as a solvent and in many antiseptics. It has many environmental benefits and is widely produced across the world due to its multitude of uses and in being more sustainable. How is it cultivated? Ethanol is primarily derived from different crops like corn, wheat, sugarcane, and sugar beets. These resources are rich in fermentable sugars, which are necessary for the production of ethanol. The two largest producers are the US and Brazil, together producing up to 80% of the world's ethanol. One of the main processes that in producing ethanol is dry mill production. It begins by grinding the corn into a mash, then cooking it and moving it into fermenters. After yeast is added, the process that converts the sugar into alcohol begins. This process is 90% of ethanol production, with the other 10% being the wet milling process, which separates the components of the corn through soaking the contents, and then the starch that remains can be fermented into alcohol. The process of fermentation is key when producing ethanol. Fermentation is the process of breaking down sugars by yeast. Pyruvate molecules are processed in order to regenerate NAD+, allowing the cycle of glycolysis to continue. Acetaldehyde is reduced into ethanol, and this makes acetaldehyde and CO2 products of fermentation. It makes ethanol and CO2 products of fermentation, which these take place in fermentation tanks under controlled temperatures. Ethanol is primarily known for large-scale commercial production, and it was basically government funding began around the 1970s in support for these biofuels, and it is considered widely available, which is found in the form of E10, which just means that it is gasoline blended with 10% ethanol. And even government incentives have caused businesses to incorporate higher usages of ethanol, like blends with higher ethanol content in gasoline. Some benefits are that by blending it with gasoline, carbon emissions can lower than just straight gasoline, and the production of ethanol by corn has increased from 2005 to 2019, where the CO2 produced in the production of corn ethanol is nearly neutralized. Some harmful impacts are that they require a large amount of land and a large amount of energy for production, and it could potentially cause habitat loss as more land is needed for this. And also, some vehicles can run on higher contents of ethanol, but they require a very specific engine, making it not as common to use higher contents of ethanol. Ethanol plays a large role in the economy of the US and is a large contributor to thousands of jobs, creating almost 400,000 jobs and contributing approximately $55 billion to gross domestic product is simply all due to ethanol production. Some positive perceptions are that it lowers greenhouse gases emissions compared to regular fossil fuels, and the success of it allows the US to rely less on imported oil from other countries, making us more economically independent and successful, and allowing people to be aware of this through television news reports, newspapers, and magazines might allow them to change their perception. Some negative perceptions are that it is known for being flammable, and employees working in ethanol plants are exposed to extreme risks like explosions that have occurred multiple times. Given the data analyzed, I think that as time goes on, the usage of ethanol will become increasingly popular and could even overtake the production of gasoline. So it has many economic advantages like providing jobs, decreasing reliance on other countries, and increasing our GDP. Some future steps may involve finding ways to implement ethanol that don't pose as many risks, and also producing ethanol that have specific uses so that it is not being wasted at all and could have more mindfulness of greenhouse gas emissions. My plan would be to find ways to convert CO2 directly into ethanol, which would provide great benefits and allowing CO2 to not be wasted. So by forming ethanol and water, it would produce a mixture that would integrate into an ethanol plant's pre-distillation process, And overall, the future of ethanol is promising as new innovations and technologies are researched constantly.